Well, I'm sure that these two presentations will generate a few questions. We have 10 minutes.
Mr. Schumacher, you mentioned several times that different moves or strategies lended an organic quality to your architecture. Could you define what organic architecture is to you and your firm?
Yes. Organic, concept of organic means that instead of having a series of disparate, discrete objects, autonomous and hermetic, kind of composed or arranged or collaged, you will try to, the organic is expressing, articulating that these components build up a kind of functional life process where they are complementing each other, work with each other, require each other, reference each other, etc. So, and that is not something self-evident. Usually, if you have a kind of design philosophy where you have a kind of schedule of accommodation, a number of requirements, you tend to break that down into sub parts, design for them, and then put them all next to each other. They might then work to a certain extent with each other. That means they are adjacent. You have them, they are kind of meaningfully separated and connected just on the basis of their physical proximity and physical separation. But that is not, let's say, the specific contribution of architecture. Architecture, I think, has to be able to, that becomes ever more important, able to articulate and orient users in this ever more, let's say, complex arrangements. If you put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and all different discrete objects into this kind of pile, you will lose a sense of how these things work together. This doesn't become transparent automatically. So the organic is in a way the ambition to craft relationships, to, for instance, make cornerless transitions from one object to the other, to see how one or the other object could be brought under similar morphological principles so that their affiliation is kind of acceptable, conceivable. A bit like in the organic, you have the multifunctional organism uses similar substances and similar morphologies to create all sorts of quite disparate elements, but you can perceive and feel what belongs to it together and what separates. So this is the kind of philosophy, and I'm talking about the organic inter-articulation of subsystems, mutual adaptation, where things have to adapt to each other, because they might have different directions, for instance, in the urban fields. I haven't shown that in Singapore, for instance, you have a number of urban subfields which come in with their own, let's say, urban grids and subgrids or disparate, sort of letting these kind of lines clash with each other. We use a curvilinearity to kind of tangentially feed everything into each other. And these are just, there's a number of mechanisms, a number of principles, and there's a whole repertoire which would be gathered under the notion of organic inter-articulation of subsystems, rather than kind of collaging discrete components.
Any more questions?
Robert Breed, Civil Engineering Magazine. What is the status today of work on Business Bay, and what's the timeline for it?
We've started work July last year. We've finished, I could say, 80% of the dredging work and the quay wall for the creek. Expected for all the dredging work to be completed by March 2007, and all infrastructure work to be finished by June 2008, including roads, sewer systems, electricity. I would say from now, infrastructure point of view, we are approximately 20% off, and from dredging it's 80%.
This question is for Mr. Schumacher. My name is Melanie Davis. I'm an artist, and I'd like to know what you would like to, or how you would like to see art evolve
The last sentence I didn't catch that.
I'd like to know if you have any thoughts on how art can evolve and respond to organic architecture instead of being cloth art that, it's a rectangle and it just gets stuck on the wall. How art can evolve to part of what you're talking about.
You mean art in connection with architecture? I'm not sure if there's a number of intersections I would point towards. One is that the origin of modern architecture, realization that abstract art of the early 20th century was kind of an amazing, accelerating expansion of the sense of creativity and generating a repertoire which would then be kind of selected and utilized and further played by architects. So there's this kind of, in terms of the avant-garde and the idea of experimenting with form and formal repertoires, there's a kind of direct link between art and architecture. When it comes to another intersection I see is with art institutions which were designing the new contemporary art and architecture museum of Rome or contemporary art in Cincinnati, etc. What we argued for is that the institution of contemporary art is so open-ended. There's perhaps only one essential criterion which all contemporary art shares. That's about staging a public event. It's kind of some kind of public communication event, and no further restrictions. So what we've designed in terms of in terms of particular, we wanted to create an event spaces which are internally differentiated, which have quite abstract and open-ended, and not preconceiving particular neutral conditions, for instance. So there is in a sense, and you saw the image of the Cincinnati Art Center, where this kind of silver cloud was hanging in that space. It was a great found object of symbiosis for this building, and that has been the debate. So I think in terms of museum spaces, we creating kind of difficult sites and contexts, all about staging public events. When it comes to public design and outdoor spaces or interfacing, I don't think we can anticipate and preconceive what artists will do. So in a sense, we do our work, and what I can say is in distinction to, let's say, more classical conceptions of architecture, which are complete and hermetic compositions full of proportional systems and symmetries, we achieve a sense of organic integration not through closure, completion, the wholeness, but through these mechanisms of continuous differentiation, organic interarticulation. They're always open compositions, and there's always a possibility that somebody else, something quite strange and other, could invade that and could affiliate. Even with our composition, as you see, we started with towers, and later on we were given additional program components, additional sites, and through working with these techniques and these strategies, in the end, any kind of random, quasi-random agglomeration of elements, be they contextual or additions, can be forged into this kind of sense of organic unity. Not a whole, because it's ever evolving, but the techniques and mechanisms allow us. So I would say artists can intervene. In violate, there is no sense of perfection which we would, let's say, police or so on. In fact, we have worked with very upcoming from China who's been setting our buildings on fire. And an interesting outcome of that. This was just for kind of experimental building. But I think that would be my answer, that there is no anticipation and constriction, but an openness to receive most. This not work.
Okay, well, we're going to draw this session to a close. I'd like to thank Shahab Lutfi and Patrik Schumacher and give them